A morning NATO airstrike in eastern Afghanistan has left at least 18 people dead, including women and children, according to local officials there. People living nearby say all those killed were celebrating a wedding. Now, NATO denies that, claiming they took out 8 military commanders in that strike, and it doesn't mention at all civilian casualties in this statement. Let's talk about this and a couple of other matters now with Ahmed Qureshi. He's joining me live. He's president of the Pak Nationalist Forum. He's on the line from Islamabad. Hi there, Ahmed. Let's talk about this event first. It's only a week since the UN report, since talking about the number of civilian deaths in Afghanistan by NATO, saying it was far too high. Now today we have another deadly airstrike. What impact is this latest airstrike, for want of a better word, I was going to say accident, we don't know, this airstrike going to have?
Kevin, first of all, I'd go with the report of the Afghan government and their complaints about the civilian deaths. Of course, I will not take into account the denial of the NATO, because the Afghan government does not have a reason to lie. And of course, they have a reputation to protect in front of their own people. They're answerable to their people. So I would go with what the Afghan government is saying, and they're saying that civilians have been killed today. And I think, without exaggeration, it would be safe to say now that the vast majority of the Afghan people have really rebelled against the foreign occupation of their country. The only reason you're seeing increasing and more blunt and more courageous resistance attacks against the coalition forces in Afghanistan is because the ordinary Afghans are providing sanctuary, are providing protection, are providing access to the resistance fighters, to the Al-Qaeda, to the Taliban, whatever you want to call it, whatever NATO wants to call them. So basically, and everything you hear, frankly, about winning the hearts and minds is really ancient history. The Americans have absolutely lost it as far as the Afghan people's hearts and minds are concerned.
And the mission was to protect the wider Afghan population, wasn't it? I mean, there's been another event as well, 22 civilians killed again, on top of what I've just been talking about, 22 civilians killed in twin terrorist bombings earlier on in the day as well. This protection of the Afghan people isn't going too well, is it?
The Afghan people, Kevin, have lost more of their civilians in the first decade of the 21st century than the United States lost on 9/11. It was a tragic event on 9/11, but this is no less a tragedy. And frankly, we don't see any justice in this, that the Afghan people should lose this many. And of course, NATO and the U.S. military in Afghanistan are very quick to condemn the Taliban for their bombings in various cities where and attacks, of course, where civilians are killed. But how is the U.S. military and NATO any different? They kill as many civilians there. And I think, we talk to a lot of Afghan activists, and I think any future government in Afghanistan after the Americans are out, in order to reclaim credibility, I think they will have to initiate some sort of a reconciliation process whereby they would have to move some legal cases, maybe go as far as the UN or the International Court of Justice and ask for compensation for what happened. I mean, Afghanistan will be left with wounds that would take decades to heal. I mean, just thousands and thousands of civilians have been killed. Who would look after the orphans? Who would look after the psychological and the other social problems resulting from this unending, endless deaths of civilians, and no accountability whatsoever on the U.S. military and the NATO?
Let's talk a little bit about Pakistan now for a minute. Pakistan's formally complained about the US drone strikes there on Tuesday, saying the alliance acts against international law. Now that sounds markedly similar, doesn't it, to what Western leaders accuse Syria's president of doing? Kind of double standards, aren't there?
I think no one has, Kevin, really undermined the international system in the 21st century, the first decade. Now, of course, we're in the second decade of the 21st century. No one has undermined the international system more than NATO and the United States. And this is very, very dangerous. I mean, this might sound a little alarmist or romantic, maybe, but if we go back 100 years ago, the early years of the 20th century, the very reason the world went on to extreme armament and weaponization and, of course, endless wars is because of the mistakes committed by the Western powers. And we're very concerned to see these very same Western powers sort of messing up and really planting chaos in our region, and we will pay the price for what these people are doing here. And I think the people of this region, the countries in the region, the major powers in this region, Russia, China, Pakistan, others, should really step in and try to sort of contain some of the mess that these Western powers are leaving behind.
All right, thank you for your thoughts. Ahmed Qureshi there on the line from Islamabad, President of the Pak Nationalist Forum, as you are.
Thank you.